We in here, everybody. Happy Friday afternoon. This is Dre All Day coming to y'all live, Work on Your Game University's main campus. So as y'all come in, of course we gotta wait for everybody to get in, but as y'all come in, leave your name and location in the comments. We're gonna get into the proceedings very shortly. We got a lot that I want to share with y'all tonight. Some things taking place that we all need to face, and we're gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till everybody gets in the room, give some people some time to get into the room. Then we're gonna talk about all that tonight. As y'all come in, name and location. As y'all come in, name and location. Name and location as you come into the live stream, and we're gonna get started in a minute. Live from Work on Your Game University. Everybody who's coming in, welcome. Hope everybody's having a great day. Has had a great Friday so far. Shit, it's too fucking hot here. Hope everybody's had a great Friday so far. We about to get started in a minute. Y'all come in, name and location, name and location, name and location. We are getting started very shortly. My name is Dre All Day. Hope everybody's had a great week. It is Friday afternoon. Khan is checking in. What's good, Khan? Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Zane from Toronto. Kyle Gleason checking in from SoCal. Shout out to Southern California. Iceland is in the house. Somebody said, "Why do you ignore people?" Well, I just flipped your question on you. Elkins Park, PA. Shout out to Elkins Park. Shout out to Philly. Shout out to everybody in PA, northeast part of the United States. Aaron, Philly. As y'all come in, tell me your names and location. I'm giving everybody like 30 seconds, then we're going to get into it. Whoever catches it late. Y'all just catch the replay. But we got some important stuff that we need to get to today because there's a lot going on. And, you know, some things that we got to talk about. Some things that we need to address here on a serious note with, you know, everybody knows what we got going on in the world right now. If you don't know what's going on, then, you know, get on the internet, get on Google after you get off of this. Derek checking in from Alpharetta, Georgia. What's good? Gerlandi checking in from Montreal. Shout out to Montreal. As y'all come in, tell me your names and locations. And we're going to get into it right now. Whoever comes in later, comes in later. Anybody got a question or a comment, I will address those at the end of the stream. So just hold your questions to the end. Crystal Wells checking in from Texas. What's going on, Crystal? Over on Facebook. So I'm live on Facebook as well. Any of y'all who got Facebook, my Facebook is /WorkOnYourGame. That's my Facebook page. So I'm going live in both at the same time right now. So for those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, creator of this philosophy called Work on Your Game, which is all about taking a pro athlete mindset and teaching you how you apply it in your business, your sport, and your life. You do not need to be an athlete. You don't need to do anything that I do to take the Work on Your Game philosophy and apply it to what you do. I stopped playing ball 5 years ago. Now I'm a full-time entrepreneur, author of 25 books. I've done 4 TED Talks, over 1,400 podcast episodes, 7,000 blog posts, 7,000 YouTube videos, 6,000 blog posts, probably 7,000 blog posts by now. But anyway, what we need to talk about right now, everyone knows that we got this whole COVID-19 or coronavirus epidemic going on. It's hitting the United States hard right now and is affecting a whole lot of people. First of all, I'm looking at worldodometers.com. I've been looking at this site for several days because somebody I know overseas sent me a link to this site. And yesterday, United States took the lead. Actually, 2 days ago, United States took the lead in the number of new cases per day. Yesterday was 17,000 new cases of corona in the United States. 268 people newly reported dead yesterday. And today we at the 16,000 cases, and it's not even the end of the day. It's only 7 o'clock, so it's probably going to pass, and 292 new deaths. Italy is close behind. Spain and Germany still both at 7,000 and higher every single day. And some of you may not have been infected with the disease. I haven't been tested. I don't think I have it. If I do, I'm asymptomatic or have been asymptomatic. Angela Brickley was good, checking it from Salt Lake over on Facebook. I have heard or listened to Doris Burke from ESPN, who does the NBA broadcast. She got it. I heard, Prince Charles had it. A whole bunch of people got it. A whole bunch of people are going to have it and have had it and are going to get it moving forward in the future. Probably somebody who's watching this, maybe me, moving forward. But the thing is this, the more people that get this and the more people that die and the more this becomes news, of course, this is going to slow other things down. Things are not going to get back to quote unquote normal until everything that's happening with this whole virus starts to downtrend, and it downtrends enough that the experts are saying, all right, people could come back outside and be within 6 feet of each other and gather in larger gatherings and we don't have the threat of this thing flaring up all over again. So this is the challenge that we all have to deal with right now. And what that means is that a lot of you, I'm sure some people who are watching this right now, your life has been interrupted majorly. You know, there are people that I was going to do some things with moving forward these next couple of months who hit me up and say, yo, we can't do it anymore because I'm not going to be around, or I don't have the same resources that I was going to have, or I'm not involved. I can't do the same thing that I was involved in before because of this whole shutdown. So anyone who works in food service, anything that involves events, anything that involves people gathering, the money's not being made. I've been reading about restaurants in South Florida, at least. People are saying, man, we lost 80% of our business because a lot of their business is people coming in, and even the takeout. A lot of businesses are doing takeout now, right? But people are scared to come out their house to even come get the food because they think I need to stay away from this virus so I don't catch it and I don't get sick. And you might not have health insurance, and you don't know if you're going to be able to get seen and all the complications that come with it. So there are a lot of people who are, losing the bag right now, not able to get a check, not able to make their money, and there are business owners out there not able to do their thing. And some of you, even though you may not be a business owner, it's going to trickle down to everybody. It's going to trickle down to everybody what is going on right now, simply because, and when I say trickle down, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to lose their money, but it means everyone's going to have to make some type of adjustment or do something different based on this new reality that we got going on. So today it was a certain topic that I was going to talk about here on the live, but I decided to call on Audible, and I want to talk about this topic, what I've been talking about so far, because of this new reality that we all got to deal with. That some of us thought, all right, they're going to shut things down for a couple of weeks. We got a little vacation. It's a little novelty that we got to deal with. But right now it's looking like it might be another month before things get back to, quote unquote, before they even talk about things getting back to normal. First of all, the number of new cases has stopped going up. Right now it's going up every day. I've been looking at that chart. Every day is going up in the United States. And the more it goes up, the longer this thing's going to take. It's going to take at least that amount of time for it to go back down and people to be cool and safe again. So it's been going up for about 3 weeks. So that means we're going to have at least 3 weeks that it needs to be going down for this to be over. So y'all looking at least another 3 weeks if it starts going down tomorrow. If it doesn't go down for another 10 days, then add 10 days to what we already did. And they got to go at least that much time before everything calms down and people can get back to their normal day-to-day lives. I was speaking to my mother today. She was telling me in Philly, they're going to give computers to all the students in the school district, which is that's a disaster plan waiting to happen. They're not going to get most of those computers back, or they're going to be destroyed. But that's a whole different conversation. But what I want to talk about today is this. What adjustments does everyone need to make based on the current situation at hand? Now, I talked about this a little bit about a week ago. I believe it was not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. It might have been this past Sunday. I can't even remember. But I was just saying how you can come out stronger from this whole epidemic and what we have going on. There was some general stuff that everybody needs to do. What I want to talk about today is a deeper level of that, of things that everyone here needs to do based on what's going on. Because even somebody like myself, who is an entrepreneur, and a lot of my work is online, so the fact that the movies is closed in the mall and I can't sit down at a restaurant, it's inconvenient, but it doesn't directly affect my business, but it really does, because some of the people that I work with work in industries where people gather. Some of the people who are my clients and customers, they make their money by doing things where people gather. So if they're not making money, they're probably not going to spend any money. If they're not spending money, then I'm not going to be able to do the things that I normally do. I have to make some adjustments myself. So even if you feel like, oh, you're an entrepreneur and the business doesn't affect you, nobody is not affected by this. Everybody's affected on some level. It doesn't mean that you're going to make less money. It doesn't mean that your business is going to go out of business. It just means that you need to see this reality and make some adjustments. That's what I want to talk about here in this live. So if everybody's ready for that, please, if you're on IG, please give me the hearts or the taps or whatever it is. If you tap the screen, it makes the hearts come up. So please give me some hearts so we can get into this. That's what they used to do on Periscope. When I used to do Periscope like 4 years ago. Then we're going to get into our points, 5 specific things that I want to give y'all here today on this Friday afternoon on this subject of what we need to do what adjustments we all need to make based on the situation that we have at hand right now. Thank you for everybody who is posting those hearts right now. Number one, you got to see things as they are, but don't see them worse than they are. This is something that first person I ever heard use this was Tony Robbins. He talks about any situation that you get into in life. Yes, if it's not, especially if it's a situation that you don't want, if there's some type of surprise that you didn't see coming and it's something that you didn't really want, but you got to deal with it. You don't ignore it. Don't act like it didn't happen. You got to see it as it is. See the situation, see the reality of the situation. One of my favorite books is The 50th Law by Robert Greene and 50 Cent. And the first chapter of the book is 10 chapters in this book. The first chapter is called Intense Realism, seeing things exactly as they are. And the thing about intense realism is you need to look at situations plainly, not painted by your emotions, not colored as you want them to be, but as they actually are. And at the same time, you're looking at things as they are. You're not allowing your emotions to take control of you, which I've been talking about on a couple lives this week. A couple of my live streams this week, I've talked about this. Don't allow your emotions to overpower your intelligence and make the situation seem worse than it is. So maybe you lost your job. Maybe your business had to shut down. Maybe you got laid off. Maybe your money got cut in half by 50% over the last 3 weeks. All right, that's the reality. That's what it is. But don't make it seem worse than it is. So the first thing is you got to accept it. But at the same time, don't resign yourself to it. Like, damn, this is it. It's over. There's nothing else I can do. Don't allow your emotions to start flooding in and make it seem like it's doomsday or the end of the world. That's the first step, is just seeing things as they are, but don't go any further than that. This is what it is, period. Don't put anything else after it. Don't let your emotions take control of you. Step 2, you got to start doing what we call, everybody's heard of goal setting, right? Everybody knows about setting goals. I wrote a whole book about setting goals called The Mental Workbook. But here you got to set your fears. We do this, it's called fear setting. And I'm going to give credit for this idea. The first person I heard say it was a guy named Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-hour series of books, all those books. And fear setting is similar to goal setting. And as a rough overview of the way fear setting works, you can go look it up on Tim's website if you want. But what he says is, first of all, when you're looking at a situation that may make you a little bit fearsome, you're a little bit fearful or a little bit worried about it, a little bit anxious about it, the first thing you need to do is what I told you on point number 1. See the situation as it is and lay it out as it is. So write it down. This is the situation. This is what I'm dealing with. And then after you have written down exactly what you're dealing with right now in reality as it is, then write out what's the worst case scenario. So anyone here who you had to cut back on your work or you lost some business because of this epidemic that we have going on, what's the worst case scenario? If this thing was to be as terrible as it could possibly be, what would that look like? And you need to write that down. The worst possible outcome of everything that's going on right now. So if you're in school, you can't go back to school, so you can't get a degree. So you can't get your dream job if that's the worst case scenario. Or you run a restaurant and you're going to have to shut down. Not only are you going to have to lay off all your employees, you're going to have to shut down your whole business. You still owe 3 more years on that lease that you have. And no, you're going to go bankrupt. And you're going to lose your car, you're going to lose your house, don't know how you're going to pay your kids' tuition for private school next year. If that's the worst case scenario, write it down. What's the worst case scenario? If everything goes as terrible as it could possibly go, write that down. This is the point where you're allowed to get those emotions out. So when I just told you in point number 1, don't let your emotions run wild on you. Here, let those emotions come out and put them down on paper. The thing about emotions is when you put them down on paper, you're putting them into perspective. You're allowing your emotions to be seen. The thing about emotions is when we try to cover them up or hold them down and not let them out, they just going to keep pushing harder and harder. It's kind of like there's some water leaking in a hole and you put your finger in it, then the water's going to leak somewhere else, and then eventually you run out of fingers and toes, and then it's just going to overflow you. You're going to drown in it. So what you do with your emotions is you put them down on paper so you can see exactly what you're feeling. Put them on paper so that they know they've been acknowledged. That's the second part of, we're still on point 2. This is the second part of it, worst case scenario. Then ask yourself this. If the worst case scenario takes place, what can I do to recover from it? If I do hit the worst case scenario, if the car company starts coming to my house trying to repo my vehicle because I haven't paid the note, or the landlord starts coming at me because I haven't paid that lease because I haven't been making any money and I got 3 more years in the lease, and now he's going to evict me out of my business location, and now I'm going to have that eviction on my business record, and I'm going to owe the money, the back money for all that lease, and I got to deal with that. How could I deal with that situation? If that happens, if the worst case scenario happens, what would you do? If this epidemic thing goes out another 6 months, if it goes for the rest of 2020, hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think anyone wants that to happen. But if it does happen, what's the worst possible outcome for you in your life? Write that down. And then you're writing down, how could you recover from it if that does happen? What are some things you could do to at least get back to where you are right now? At least get back to neutral, get back to zero. We'll just consider today to be zero. Get back to zero if the worst case scenario were to occur. How would you deal with that? This whole exercise, again, is called fear setting. Tim Ferriss is the first person I heard talk about it. He's written about it on his blog. You can go look that up. So the third point, what we're talking about here today for anybody who came in the middle of this is how you need to adjust to deal with the epidemic situation we got going on right now with the COVID-19/coronavirus. The third thing, start brainstorming. And when I say brainstorming, I don't mean just brainstorming for the short term. Because if you were to tell people to start brainstorming right now, let's say someone works you work as a waitress, or you work in an event space, or you work at the mall, and you can't do anything right now because the mall's closed and the events, nobody's having any events, and your restaurant's closed down, and they told you don't even show up because ain't nobody for you to serve because nobody's coming inside. What can you do in that situation? Brainstorming doesn't mean, oh, well, I'll drop Uber for a couple months until this is over, until I can start getting money again. Well, that's a short-term solution. I'm not talking about short-term brainstorming. I'm talking about maybe think long-term. And the reason why I'm telling you to think long-term is because, number one, we don't know how long this thing is going to go. Now, I don't know your personal situation, but I was talking to my man the other day, and he said he was speaking to his wife, and when he heard about this whole thing and how they was going to shut everything down, he said to his wife, like, yo, how much cash do we got? Like, let's get as much cash as we can and have it on hand in the crib just in case something goes wrong with the banks, just in case we can't go outside, just in case they enact martial law out here and nobody could go outside. What are we going to do? Let's make sure we got some cash. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I didn't do that. I didn't take any cash out of the bank. But thinking long term, if the worst case scenario does occur, and what if the restaurant industry is just changes fundamentally simply because of this whole COVID thing, and nobody wants to sit in a restaurant anymore. Nobody wants to be within 3 feet of each other anymore. Maybe it's a whole year before everyone calms down and forgets about this. Maybe people never forget about it, depending on how many people die and get infected by this disease. You never know. What if events are no longer the way that they used to be? What if the airline industry isn't the same way? I read this morning some dude who worked for American Airlines, 60-year-old something guy, died from catching the corona. So what if all these industries that have been affected temporarily by corona, what if they change fundamentally because of the impact of corona? I mean, think about the airline industry. For those of you old enough, remember when 9/11 happened? It used to be if you took somebody to the airport, you could park and walk with them all the way up to the gate, like right where they go in a little tunnel, and they swipe their boarding pass and they go in a little tunnel to get on the plane. You didn't have to have a ticket. You could walk right up to there and be standing right there with all the people that are getting on the plane. Then you could turn around and walk out. Some of you who are old enough to remember that's how it was. But then when 9/11 happened, it only happened one time. It was how many years we had aviation. It only happened one time. And then all these new things came in. They put in the Transportation Safety Administration or Authority, whatever TSA stands for. They put them in. And now the whole thing is completely changed. The whole game changed completely. Now that added new jobs for some people, but it also changed the lives of a whole lot of people fundamentally. It was almost 20 years ago now, so it's become normal to us. But as the point that I'm making with that is sometimes because of something happening, one thing happening, 9/11 happened one time. And this corona thing, hopefully it only happens one time. It could fundamentally change the way that we do certain things because people are going to react to it. And usually what happens with a large group of people, like a whole country, we get what they call an overcorrection. I mean, again, I don't think there was a bunch of other people planning to do 9/11s after 9/11, but because of what happened, nobody wants that to happen again. So he put all these regulations in. Now we got to go through all this just to get onto an airplane when there may not have even been that much of a threat of it happening again. Now, I'm not trying to minimize it, but you get the point that I'm making. Hopefully you do. If you don't, then rewind this. You can listen to it again until you understand it. But what I'm giving you all this here in point number 3 is this. Don't just think short-term solutions. Short-term, you might say, all right, I'm going to take some of my clothes and sell them on the internet so I have some cash, and I'm going to wait for that stimulus check from the government, and I'm going to hope that, some rich person decides to donate money to my industry and I get a couple of hours. Those are short-term solutions. What about long-term? What do you really want to do long-term for the next year? Or maybe you might need a new career. Maybe you might be able to stay in the career that you're in, but you might need to do it a different way because, again, it might not work the same way anymore after this whole thing is over. Again, you have no idea how they're going to change things after this thing is over because people are going to be scarred by it. The same way they were scarred by 9/11, they changed things completely. So now you can't even do the same things anymore, and you had to adjust to that. And some of you are going to remember this 20 years from now. You're going to be talking about this like, damn, remember when it used to be like this, but then that corona thing happened and now it's like this, and your kid's going to be looking at you like not even knowing what you're talking about. But this is the exact point that I'm making. So ask yourself, what if you're out of work for the next 6 months? What if you can't get any of your clients, you can't deal with any of your clients for the next year? What if you can't do the work that you're normally used to doing and you get that stimulus check, but then that money runs out? And then your landlord tells you ain't got to pay rent for 2 months, but then on that third month, all right, they come in for their money. And on the first, that rent is due. And what are you going to do at that point? What if your job as you know it changes in a way that you can't do the same thing anymore? What are you going to do then? And I want you to think of here what you what do you really want to do with your life? If the job that you had that's on hold right now, if that's not what you really want to do with your life, that wasn't really your passion, what is the thing that you really want to do? And how can you get yourself into it right now? How can you get your foot in the door, at least get started on it right now? You might not be able to jump all the way in, but how can you at least get started on it right now? Or B, if the thing that you can't do right now because of Corona is what you really want to be doing with your life, that's the thing you really want to do, but you've been you're locked out of it right now. What are some alternative ways that you can still do it, but you're not tied to what we have going on? Because right now you're tied to the fact that, damn, I can't go to my business. I can't do anything that's events based. I can't do anything at the mall. I can't do anything here or there. How can you still do it, but just do it differently from the way you're used to doing it? So for example, if you're a professional speaking is something that I do. Anybody who had a professional speaking gig anytime in the next 2 months, forget about it. You might have to get that check back. You might have to get that deposit back. You ain't going to be able to do that gig. And who knows? Those events might not occur. They might not keep happening again for another year before they start doing that again. How are you going to make money? Maybe you can start doing live streams. Maybe you can start doing Zoom videos. Everybody's using Zoom over the last couple of weeks because it allows you to do video conferencing. Maybe you could write books. Instead of doing speaking gigs, you can write books. Make the same amount of money. You learn how to market and sell your stuff online. What are some ways you can do the thing you were already doing if you loved it, but just shift it onto a terrain where you are not affected by something like what happened with Corona, so that you Corona-proof your business for the future? Because something like this is going to happen again, probably not in the same form, but something's going to happen. How can you set your business up so that there are as few things that can stop you from doing your thing as possible? That's the question that you need to ask yourself and really think about moving forward. Alternate ways to keep doing what you love. Point number 4. And today, for those of you who came in the middle of this, I'm talking about the ways that we're going to need to make adjustments for ourselves and our lives based on this epidemic that we have going on. Point number 4, once you figured out what that is, or brainstorm what that is. And point number 3, I'm just telling you to brainstorm it. You're not going to have the perfect idea immediately unless you're lucky or just a genius. Point number 4 is get the information. So if you decide, all right, maybe I can start doing live video conferencing, maybe I can start live streaming every day, maybe I could write a book, maybe I could start training people on the internet, personal trainers. Maybe I can start training people online instead of training people in person, or I could teach people how to do this thing through live FaceTime calls instead of having them come meet me in the gym, because we can't meet in the gym right now because the gym is closed. Whatever alternative ideas you come up with, again, these are not things you have to immediately do, but the ideas you come up with, go get the information. Go find a person who's already doing that thing. Somebody who was doing it before Corona. Somebody who really knows how to do it. Somebody who wrote a book on it. Somebody who has a podcast about it. Somebody with a YouTube channel. Somebody doing a live stream about it. Somebody who helps other people do it. All you got to do is sign up for their course or their live call. You go hire them as a consultant or hire them as a coach, or get their training workbook. Whatever they got going on, the information already exists, ladies and gentlemen. If you get the idea of doing some alternative way of still doing your thing, there is someone out there who's already doing it, already knows how to do it, and they know how to teach people like you how to do it. So your next step, point number 4, is to go get the information. Go find the people who already know how to do that thing. Get the information from those people. It is out there. Do not waste any time. That brings me right into point number 5. This is the last point. Get active. This is the most important thing that I want to say to anybody out there right now who is seriously affected by this epidemic. Meaning, if you work in events, anything where people gather, and you have not been able to make money or go to work or run your business, or your business has been severely impacted by the epidemic we have going on right now, do not sit around hoping that this thing starts going down and that everything's just going to go, quote, back to normal in 2 or 3 weeks, because it might, but it might not. And the thing that you need to understand is hope is not a strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Hoping that things change is not a strategy for success. Now, we can all hope for the best, but we got to prepare for something less than the best taking place. That's just a smart thing to do. As I told you in point number 1, see it as it is, but not worse than it is. But you got to get active. There are a lot of people right now who are waiting it out, but understand that the thing that you're waiting out, it might not be wait outable. All right? It might not be over in 2 weeks. It might not be over in 3 weeks. It might not be over. We might go through the whole summer with this. Again, I'm not hoping that's what happens. I hope that's not what happens, because it's damn beautiful in Miami right now. I love to be outside more than I am outside right now. But understand that we got to make adjustments, and you got to position yourself so that if and when this does get worse or is just as bad as it's always been, we got some alternatives. You don't want to be sitting here stuck like, damn, what am I going to do now? Because at the end of March, I thought this was going to be over by the middle of April, but here we are, June, and we still got this thing going on. I can't get my check. I can't get my money. You don't want that to be your situation. So don't say, anybody who's listening to my voice right now, don't say that you didn't have this information, that nobody put this on you to go do something about it. So the 5th point is to get active. Don't wait it out, because it might be longer than you think. Do not wait. Position yourself so, again, if this happens again, or if something changes, if it changes for the worse, changes for the better, you position yourself with peace of mind that you have alternatives. In life, you never want to stick yourself with a failure point. You don't want to have one failure point, because if something happens to that one failure point, your whole thing collapses. You want to have several in place, so just in case this one doesn't work, you got this one. This one doesn't work, you got that one. It's just like a company like Google. They got more than one server that serves up all those searches that all of us use all day. If one of those computers fail, or one of those servers fail, they got 1,000 others. They got some in the USA, they got some in Russia, they got some in China, they got some in Australia, they got some in Alaska, they got some in probably Antarctica, all in different places, so that no matter what goes wrong with any one of them, they got a whole bunch of other ones going, so that you never notice that Google's website's never been down. All right, as many years they've been around, the website never went down, because they got backups to backups to the back. They got backups to the backup. You need to have backups to your backup. A lot of people in life only have one way of making money, only one way of creating success for themselves. And the problem is, if something happens to that one way, that many of us think is no way anything could ever happen to this one way. Like, people always gonna have to get something to eat, right? Or so we thought. Until now, people can't even go into a restaurant. People still get something to eat, but they don't get it the way that you thought they would. Now what you going to do? You only have one way of making money. So set yourself up with multiple ways, so even when it goes back to normal, you're not still normal. Now, with all that being said, let me recap these 5 points, and whoever has a question, you can go ahead and post it in the comments. I will address all questions here tonight relevant to the topic we are talking about. As I recap, the 5 things that you should start doing now, given that this epidemic it hasn't gotten better yet. And as long as this thing keeps going up, the number of new cases, again, it's going to take at least that much time for it to go down before things go back to normal. So right now we're looking at, I am saying at least another 3 weeks. At least. That's best case scenario. So whoever got a question, go ahead and post it. I'm going to recap. Number 1, see things as they are, but not worse than they are. Don't let your emotions overflow your intelligence. Number 2, fear setting. What's the worst case scenario? How can I survive it? What can I do to get myself back to normal? Number 3, start brainstorming, and not just for the short term, but for the long term. What if your industry completely changes and you can't even go back to your old job? What are you going to do? Start brainstorming what you would actually do. That means either what do you really want to do if that's not what you were doing before, or what are some different ways you could do what you really want to do if you have been blocked from doing it. And number 4, get the information. It's out there. Books, podcasts, YouTube videos, courses, coaches, consultants, live streams. Number 5, get active right now. There are a lot of people waiting this out, thinking that it's going to get better, hoping that it gets better. Hope is not a strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Do not wait this thing out, because it might take longer and get worse, and you don't want to be the one sitting around not knowing that it was going to get there. But I'm telling you right now, so nobody can say they weren't informed. So whoever got a question, you go ahead and post it. I'm going to see if I got anything I need to respond to coming through the comments right here. My name is Dre Baldwin, for those people who don't know me. Creator of Work on Your Game, author of 25 books. I created this philosophy that's all about taking the pro athlete mindset, teaching you how to apply it in your business, in your sport, and in your life. Made by Tev. What's going on? ARB, what's going on? If anybody got a comment, go ahead and post it. Let's see. EG2 official, what's good? Trainer TG, so you started an apparel line. Trainer TG, I told you personal training is not slow. All right, people need to work out. Get on this virtual training thing, and that's what I would suggest you do. Forget the apparel. People don't need clothes. People need people trying to survive right now. All right, give them that training. That's what you do best, unless you're a fashion designer. I mean, if you're a trainer, train. Ja Raya says, what if you can't focus on things that you want to do during this pandemic, like having a lot of fear on worst case scenarios? What is the thing that you want to do? Ja Mao Raya. What is the thing that you want to do? Because I addressed that in the first point, so maybe you missed it, so you can watch the replay. But tell me what the thing is you want to do, and we'll address that. Keys to the Court says, how accurate do you think those numbers are? I believe those numbers. We passed the point of don't believe the numbers, that this whole thing might be a government hoax. We passed that point. We're past that. So now it's time to, like I said, see things as they are, but not worse than they are. BRY Bry Dixon, thanks for the motivation. You've helped me for a while. You're welcome. I appreciate you. All right. So if anybody got a question, I'm going to take like 30 seconds to see if anybody else comes through with a question, because I know there's a little bit of lag time on here. And then we'll wrap it up for this Friday. I hope everybody's having a great week, positive week, doing good things for yourself despite what we have going on here. People who had to work extra hard because now it's more burden on you, people who can't work at all. If you haven't gotten this book, The Mirror Motivation, this is the pinned comment, Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. We are still shipping these books worldwide. The post office is still open. We still printing books. So mirrormotivation.com, Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. If you don't ever have time to read, now you got an excuse to read. Get this book for free. Yes, free 99. Go to mirrormotivation.com. Get the Self-Guide to Self-Discipline so you can light that fire inside of you, light that pilot inside of your soul, so you can figure out what you really want to do with your life. And then on top of that, actually go do it. All right, it ain't about just figuring it out. It's about actually going and doing it. It's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to go do it. All right, everybody, have a great Friday. Anybody got a question for me, a good question, hit me in the DM. Other than that, mirrormotivation.com. Make sure you follow me here on IG, turn on your notifications, because I will be going live again and again. And work on your game. Have a great weekend.